Hello students, this is your English lesson. In this lesson, we will read unit number 11, The Flying Trunk from Oxford Reading Circle 6. Let's get started. This is page number 94. Let's start reading together. There was once a wealthy merchant, so rich that he could have paved the whole street with gold. But he was careful with his money, so he saved the lot. The merchant was also very clever. With the money he had, he made even more, and so he continued till one day he died, and his son inherited his vast fortune. The son was not prudent like the father. He lived a merry and extravagant life, had parties, and went out on the town every evening. He even made kites out of the currency notes, and if these were cut by other kites and floated off in the wind, he merrily laughed. Sometimes he sat by a river, and as others skimmed flat stones across the water, our hero used pieces of gold. The silly fellow soon lost everything. All he had left was a pair of slippers, an old dressing gown, and 4 coins. And what is worse, all his friends deserted him, save one. This friend, if you can call him a friend, sent the wastrel an old trunk with the message, "Pack up." "Fine," he said, "but I have nothing to pack up in the trunk." So he seated himself in it and began to fiddle with the lock. No sooner had he pressed the catch when the trunk took off. "Oh, this is fun," said the merchant's son as he shot up through the chimney and headed for the clouds. "What a wonderful trunk this is!" He was having a marvelous time. On and on he flew over towns and cities and mountains and plains until one day he arrived in Turkey. The trunk landed with a bump, and the merchant's son had a spectacular somersault. He picked himself up and looked around. Then he hid the trunk in the wood under some dry leaves and went along a road to the town. As he walked along, he noticed that the peasants in the fields were all wearing strange clothes. Well, they were not really strange, but they all seemed to be wearing dressing gowns. "How fortunate," said he, for he too was dressed like them, in his dressing gown and a pair of slippers. As he neared the town, the merchant's son met a woman. "I say," cried he, "what castle is that near the town, with the windows placed so high?" "The king's daughter lives there," replied the woman. "She is very beautiful, but it has been prophesied that she will be unlucky in love, and so no one is allowed to visit her unless the king and queen are present." "Thank you," said the merchant's son, and he immediately thought of a plan. He went straight back to the wood, got into his trunk, flew up to the roof of the castle, and crept through the window into the princess was asleep on a sofa, but she awoke the moment he entered and was very frightened. The merchant's son calmed her by saying he was a Turkish angel who had come down through the air to see her, which pleased her very much. He sat down by her side and they talked. He said her eyes were like dark lakes in which her thoughts swam like mermaids, and her forehead was a snowy mountain which contained splendid halls full of pictures. And then he told her delightful stories, and they impressed her greatly. And later, when he asked the princess if she would marry him, she consented immediately. "But you must come on Saturday," She said, "For then the king and queen will take tea with me. They will be very proud when they find that I am going to marry a Turkish angel. But you must think of some pretty stories to tell them. My mother prefers ones that are moral, but my father likes those that are humorous." "Very well," he replied. "I shall bring you no other entertainment than a story." And so they parted. But before he left, the princess gave him a sword which was studded with gold coins. The merchant's son flew away to the town, and with some of the coins wrenched off the sword, he bought some new clothes. Afterwards, he returned to the wood and composed a story so as to be ready for Saturday soon arrived, and the merchant's son set off for the castle. The king and queen and the whole court were at tea with the princess, and he was received with great civility. "Will you tell us a story?" said the queen. "One that is instructive and full of deep learning." "Yes, but with something in it to laugh at," said the king, giggling softly. "Certainly," replied the merchant's son, and he commenced at once. "There was once a bundle of matches," said he, "and the matches were extremely proud of their high descent. Their genealogical tree, a large pine tree from which they had been cut, was at one time a large old tree in the wood. The matches now lay between a tinder box and an old iron saucepan, and were talking about their youthful days. 'Ah, the good old days,' said the matches. We grew on green boughs, a main branch of tree, and were as green as they. Every morning and evening we were fed with diamond drops of dew. Whenever the sun shone, we felt his warm rays, and the little birds would twitter. Twitter of a bird give a call consisting of repeated light. Twitter their stories to us, how rich we were, how lucky to be able to wear our green clothes all year round. But one fine day, not so fine for us, a woodcutter came, and our family fell under his axe. The old trunk, the head of our house, obtained a position as mainmast on a very fine ship, and he sails the seven seas wherever his fancy takes him. The other branches of the family were turned into furniture and other useful things. But for us, there has been no such luck. Our job now is to kindle a light for common people. See how the once mighty have fallen on such hard times. We were high born, but we now have to live in a kitchen. "Mine has been a very different fate," remarked the iron saucepan. "From the day I was born, I have had to endure great hardship. I have been scrubbed and scoured, washed and dried, dropped and banged with a spoon, and constantly burned. Whenever something solid is required in this house, even if it is only to prop open a door, I am the one selected. My only pleasure in life has been when I have been cleaned and placed on the shelf with a little spare time to talk with my neighbors. All of us, except for the bucket which is sometimes taken into the courtyard, have to spend all our days in here. And as for receiving news from the outside world, well, I can tell you." "Oh, do take a breather," said the tinder box. Tinder box, a patch box, is a container made of wood containing flint, who was getting rather tired of listening to the old saucepan. "You talk too much." And with that, the tinder box let off some sparks and said, "We want a merry evening, don't we?" "But of course," said the matches. "Let us discuss the matter of birth and position and find out who are the highest born." "Fiddlesticks," replied the saucepan. "Why must we always talk about who we are and where we came from? Let's have some other amusement." And they all were silent for a while, deep in thought. "I know," cried the saucepan at last. "We can all tell something that has happened to ourselves. That will be easy and jolly. I shall begin." "What a good idea," said the players. "We shall all like that, I'm sure." "Yes, well, in my youth," continued the saucepan, "I lived with a quiet family where the furniture was polished, the floors scoured, and where clean curtains were put up every fortnight." "What an interesting way you have of relating a story," said the carpet broom. "It is easy to perceive that you have been a great deal in genteel society. There is something truly noble in what you say." "So true," said the water bucket, splashing some water on the floor. At this point the merchant's son paused and looked to see if the assembly were enjoying the tale. By the look on the faces of the king and queen and the sparkle in the prince's eyes, he knew that the story was going down well. So he continued. The end of the saucepan's story was just as good as the beginning. The plates rattled with pleasure, and the carpet broom did a merry dance, swirling up, move in a twisting up the dust on the floor, and the fire tongues joined in. Oh, how they danced and frolicked, play or move about in a cheerful way. Then the chair cushion in the corner burst out laughing, and she hitched up her frilly cover, moved into a different position, frilly decorated with frilly cover, and joined in the dance. But all the while the matches stood apart, thinking how common they are. The tea urn was asked to sing, but she said she was too old and could not sing till she was warmed up. "Oh," cried the others, "look at you! We suppose it is only in the parlor that you can sing, on a polished table with grand people around." The atmosphere in the kitchen became heated. The quill pen with which the maid wrote her lists, the tea kettle, a soprano and half brother to the tea urn, and even the shopping basket, all joined in the debate. But then the maid entered, and the kitchen was silent and still. The boys did not mix, and felt that if they had wanted to, they could have suggested some brilliant ideas of games to play. The maid took the matches and lighted them. Dear me, how they sputtered to spit from the mouth with explosive sounds, and blazed up. "Now then," they thought, "everyone will see that we are the best. How we do shine! How we do sparkle! What a bright light we give!" But even while these grand thoughts came to mind, their light fizzled out, and fizzled out and died. "What a capital story," said the queen, looking with wonder at the merchant's son. "I felt as if I were really in the kitchen and could see the matches Yes, you shall marry our daughter. Certainly, agreed the king. And the princess clapped her hands in delight. The wedding day was fixed and preparations were made. On the evening before the wedding, the whole city was illuminated, lit with bright lights. Cakes and sweet meats were distributed. The street boys shouted hurrah and stuck their fingers in their mouths and whistled. It was a very splendid affair. I shall give them another treat, thought the merchant's son. He went off unnoticed and bought rockets and crackers and all sorts of fireworks. He packed them in his trunk and flew up with it into the air. What a whizzing move quickly through the air, and popping they made as they went off over the town. And the Turks danced in the streets and sang, our princess is going to wed a real Turkish angel. When the display was over, the merchant's son returned in his trunk to the wood. I shall walk back into the town now, he said to himself, and hear what they think of the entertainment. How beautiful it was, said one. I saw the angel myself, said another. His eyes glittered like the stars, said a third. He flew in a mantle of fire, cried another. The merchant's son puffed out his chest. How proud he felt, but not for long. When he returned to the wood, he found a spark had burned his trunk to ashes. The merchant's son could fly no more, nor go to meet his bride. She stood all day on the roof waiting for him, and most likely she is waiting there still, while he wanders through the world telling fairy tales, but none of them so amusing as the one he related about the matches. Come to the exercises. A questions. 1. In what ways was the merchant's son different from his father? Answer. The merchant's son was less responsible and more wasteful than his father. He was not interested in trade and spent all his father's fortune spending his father's wealth. 2. Had you found the flying trunk? How would you have used it? Answer. If I had found the flying trunk, I would have flown on it to all the countries of the world. I will also fly to other planets and meet alien creatures and learn different things about them. 3. What was the discussion in the kitchen about? Answer. The discussion in the kitchen was about breed and ancestry. The different objects were talking about where they came from and the work that they did in different households. They were singing and telling stories to spend the time. 4. What would you say about the character and temperament of the merchant's son after he decided to light up firecrackers on the evening before the wedding? Answer. The merchant's son liked to show off and wanted a grand spectacle to celebrate his wedding. He had not learned to be careful with his wealth and power. He lit up the firecrackers to impress the people of the town. 5. Can you write a different ending for this story? Answer. After discovering the loss of his flying trunk, the merchant's son tries to find his way to the castle on foot. He meets many challenges and he learns to survive without wealth and magical powers. He helps many people along the way and learns to be humble and helpful. Finally, he reaches the castle and apologizes to the princess and her family. They forgive him after hearing his story. In the end, he marries the princess and they live happily ever after. B. Reference to context. Read these lines from the poem and then answer the questions. 1. I felt as I were really in the kitchen and could see the matches. A. Who spoke these words and to whom? Answer. The queen spoke these words to the prince. B. What are these words referring to? Referring to. Answer. The words are referring to the story about the matches that the merchant's son was narrating. C. What happened afterwards? Answer. The king and queen agreed for the princess to be married to the merchant's son. 2. I shall give them another treat. A. Who said these words? Answer. The merchant's son said these words. B. What did the speaker have in mind when he spoke these words? Answer. He wanted to delight and impress the people of the town. C. What happened after the treat was over? How did the speaker suffer? Answer. The people were impressed by the fireworks, but the flying trunk was burned in a fire. Words and meaning. A. Peasant, a poor farmer or labor. Pheasant, a game bird. B. Fate, luck and fortune. Fate, a celebration or honor. C. Prophesy, a revelation. Prophecy, a prediction. D. Creep, crawl or snake. Crepe, a fabric with a textured surface. E. Angel, a being that carries messages from God. Angle, space between two lines. F. Gentle, kind and mild. Genteel, refined. Thanks for listening. For new videos, don't forget to subscribe my channel. And if you like my videos, please share and like.